Good morning, everyone. This is the presentation of the Industry 4.0 study. And we have done several studies here, and this study is initiated by Business Region Göteborg. And we're doing this live seminar together with IT and Telecom Association and GREAT as well. And this is a way of mapping clusters. We here in Gothenburg at Business Region Göteborg, my organization, we support companies both to establish and invest, but also existing companies to grow in the Gothenburg region. And therefore, it's very important to have the good materials that could show how are the ecosystems situated. What companies do we have? What organizations do we have? And this study is done by Johan Hogsved from Rebl and one company. And Johan has done several studies for us. I will mention that as well. And also we will publish this afterwards. And we will also have more seminars, and I hope we have it live seminars this autumn, because this was planned to be the advanced engineering in March, that was cancelled. So now this is the first presentation, and the film will be recorded and also published on our website. And Johan, please, next slide. We did a study in 2010-2011. What are the areas of strength for the Gothenburg region? There are several areas that are important, and those needed to be updated. And I received an email from my colleague based in Brussels in December saying those are the coming areas of topic for the ICT in Europe. And we adjusted. So those, you can see the 5+1 areas are the areas that we think are very important areas of strength for the Gothenburg region and West Sweden, but also they are aligned with the Swedish and European priorities. Some of them are new, some of them emerged from the old one, and some of them are still existing. And the interesting thing in Industry 4.0 is that area is affecting all of those 5+1 areas mentioned. Please, next one, Johan. Just briefly, those are the existing presentations we have done, and not to terrorize you with a lot of emails with big presentations. Everything is available on investingothenburg.com/targetindustries/ICT. So just download and see. Would like to go further deeper in, would like to have a seminar in some one topic, would like to just discuss over virtual or physical Java, then we have everything published. And this will be published together with the film as well. And finally, before I let Johan in doing this very first presentation, is everything, all the Q&A is through the chat window. In the bottom bar, you can see the chat window, and we have also our chat moderator, Joakim Hökegård from GREAT and HiQ, that is monitoring and giving me feedback when we have the questions in the end. But nothing more from me until the end. Now it's time for Johan Hogsved, please.
Thank you, Erik. And thank you for joining us in this first presentation of the Industry 4.0 mapping of West Sweden. This is the first take, first in Sweden, where we're trying to find a way to describe and map what's happening in Industry 4.0 in the western Sweden. And it's a huge undertaking, because Industry 4.0 consists of all these technologies you see here, mapped as strengths within ICT, but also more. So in this mapping, I will speak a bit about the mission, why Business Region is doing this map. I will also go in a bit into the question about Industry 4.0, because it's a wide subject. The definitions, there are several definitions of Industry 4.0, and I think it's good to get a common understanding on some of the definitions and how they affect society as we stand today. I will present the first mapping, also ask for your input, because I know there is a lot more out there in this region, very exciting region, that we can add on so to complete this map together. I will discuss a bit about select industries, companies and actors, do some deep down presentations on good samples, and then leave it a bit to maybe next step and where to go from here, also with the collaboration of Erik. And so first to the mission. When this project started, the mission was to make a map featuring good examples of West Sweden actors driving Industry 4.0. Like the other studies that are more technology focused, we wanted to find 100 companies and organizations to promote as good examples and see what clusters do we have in the region, what special areas of competence can we find. And we said we wanted to promote both organizations enabling Industry 4.0, in example, delivering technologies or services regarding to Industry 4.0, and companies implementing Industry 4.0, for example, in their own production. So it's a wide scope. And through this, we want to be able to go out to actually tell the world that, yes, we have a strong region, but we also need, we have identified areas where we want your help, or we can be a market for you, and also what can you find here that you can't find in other regions. So Industry 4.0, SKF, they made a study on 400 people in the industry, asking them, do you know what Industry 4.0 is? And about 60% said that they were uncertain or slightly uncertain about what Industry 4.0 was, while 4 out of 10 was more certain. And I think that's symptomatic because it's not a very clear definition of Industry 4.0. So I don't know whether 6 out of 10 don't knowing what Industry 4.0 is exactly is more remarkable than 4 out of 10 actually knowing exactly what Industry 4.0 is. But to go back a few years, we've had a number of industrial revolutions in the world. Industry 4.0 or Industrie 4.0 was started in Germany as an initiative by Angela Merkel in 2011. So it was a political initiative that first used the word Industry 4.0 to make a new type of production to strengthen the German production. They also introduced words like smart factory and cyberphysical systems. But there are initiatives around the globe. In the US, around the same time, there was a project on advanced manufacturing, a political initiative. China has Made in China 2025, Internet Plus. Japan has a new robot strategy. And while most of these words are forgotten, Industry 4.0 has survived because it describes general trends in the society that I will come back to more. If we go to Wikipedia, we try to understand 4.0. This is just the first few sentences of the explanation. It says that we started with an initiative from Germany, but then it's a lot of technology that comes up. It says cyber-physical systems. And I had to Google cyber-physical systems. That is when things actually interconnect with cloud and internet and computing. That's a cyber-physical system. And the Internet of Things, everything is getting connected. The industrial Internet of Things, another term more close to industry, cloud computing, cognitive computing, artificial intelligence, cyber. A lot of technologies have evolved right now that allow us to make things make products and make production in a new way, where we use the new technologies to turn around things. For example, if you buy a speaker in a store today, you buy something that has good sound, but without all the software, without the cloud connections, you have bought a brick. You can build a house with a brick, but without this cyber connection, it's actually not a working speaker anymore. Before, if you had bought a speaker, you had something and you could connect it to all your systems in all time. Today, if your speaker loses software support, it's not a speaker anymore, it's a brick. So that's one example of cyber-physical systems. And I will discuss some more samples where examples from the region where we have typical physical things that are getting cyber-physical right now. But this is a lot of technologies. There will be more around this, because when we start mixing technologies and remaking the products, we will also remake the business models and everything around it. For those of us that remember little from the history classes at school, we speak about the Industrial Revolution, or the first industrial revolution at the late 18th century, early 19th. We had the steam and steam engines coming. We had new ways of organizing. We invented the factories. We started mass production of things. We specialized in work. It affected a lot in how we did things. And as you see, this wasn't a year. It wasn't even tens of years. It was 80 years, more or less, give or take. So this is a long process. The second industrial revolution, we introduced electricity. We actually got the steam engines on tracks and transport costs lowered. We got a new way to trade and produce goods. We have been speaking about the third industrial revolution with robots and computers in the late 20th century, which is very close in time, but so far away. And now we're speaking about the fourth industrial revolution. If we go to World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab, for example, he argues that when we can connect everything to the internet, when we can use the computing power both in cloud and edge, when we can get all the parts of the supply chain to speak with each other, we will get a completely new way of looking at production and industry. And as you see, this is an ongoing process. So when we try to describe and map Industry 4.0, we're trying to describe something that's happening now. There are good samples of Industry 4.0 already happened, but I would say we are just in the beginning or first half of this revolution, because it takes time. And just the last few years, AI has taken giant leaps, not because it's new technology, but because other technologies that are used in AI have taken giant leaps and so forth. So now is in many cases the inception point in time. Now we can begin to see the real changes, but they are all around us, and I will discuss some examples later, and I ask the audience for more examples to improve this presentation and study. And one thing that is also new with Industry 4.0 is that now the industry and the new products, they utilize the same technologies that are used in the rest of the society. Earlier on, if I worked with industry, that was a separate branch. I did machines, heavy machinery, and I was an expert at cogwheels. I was an expert at tools and tooling. I did fixtures, for example. But today, the technologies that are used are the same as in the rest of the society. So to do a smart factory, I need AI and big data, just like every other part of the economy. I utilize the improvements in cloud and edge computing. To get to the cloud, I use industrial Internet of Things and Internet of Things. to teach, to educate people in my business. I use AR, VR to help them in their daily work. I need EdTech to get the competence out. I have the robots, I have the AGVs, automatic guided vehicles. But the same technology for the AGVs are used in self-driving cars. It's used in Volvo Group's Vera truck. It's used in Husqvarna Automovers. In the industry, we often speak about virtual twins. Everything I do in the real world, I also have a cyber twin, so I can simulate my factory and all the changes in that. So to try out new software in a virtual environment before actually setting it into production. We have additive manufacturing, that's 3D printing. Right now during Corona, I must say that 3D printing has been used a lot to solve distribution issues. I know there are a lot of 3D printers around the country that has produced material for healthcare. And all this connected world, we need cybersecurity. Both because we add new exciting technologies that add more possibilities to connect, but also because when you're out in the industry, you will find machinery that is 10 years old, 20 years old, 30 years old, and you run a CNC machine on an early version of Windows XP, where the last security patch was 10 years ago or something like that. And you probably didn't even implement it because it's in your factory. So we have a special need in the industry and a special requirement for security. And all these technologies, they are connected to all the other initiatives and the development we are speaking about, like smart cities, smart objects, smart clothing, smart logistics, smart mobility, smart healthcare. So that's a very new thing, that the same technologies that can let our production and industry take giant leaps forward is the same technology that is used everywhere else. So if you have a cluster in these areas, that's an advantage in all areas at once. So that's a bit about Industry 4.0, which is a lot about technology, but also about new business models and how you can change your business models from selling a speaker to actually selling music on demand. And in this region, if I would start with lifting a few things that I think is a bit unique with the West Sweden region compared to other parts of Sweden, is that we have a strong focus on collaboration arenas, where we have arenas where academy and companies can meet. I will shortly describe 3 of them. One is the Stena Industrial Innovation Lab, C-Lab, at Chalmers University of Technology. And it's situated at the Chalmers Lindholmen here in Gothenburg. What you can see here is a lot of collaborative robots and a station where you have the final assembly. The final assembly in most factories is mostly manual work. If you produce a motor, you have so many motor alternatives and so many alternatives that the final assembly is today manual in many factories. You have so much customization, which is increasing customer demand in many cases. And they are here doing a lab to produce drones automatically with a totally automated final assembly. And in the back of this picture, you see the kitting area where you kit for the final assembly. That's also a manual task. You have so many different items you will need to take. Its parts, its bearings, its I only know the names in Swedish. A lot of articles and parts that you need for the final assembly. And in the industry today, you take your kitting cart, take it with you, and you pick manually. But with the new intelligence you can put into robots, the new vision, you can also make that as a robotized kitting. And there are exciting projects ongoing in the region on that. So C-Lab has a close relationship to the industry. And they also have a lot of student projects. And as a company, you can also rent time there if you want to try out your ideas with the latest technology. Another initiative in Gothenburg Technical College, which is also the industrial development center for the Gothenburg region, is smart factories, where college students work with the latest trends in industrial automation and works with everything from AR to collaborative robots to flexible automation. And as a part of their education, both builds this and goes around and shows it on the different trade fairs. Also a place where a lot of meetings and distribution of knowledge is made. And if we go a bit further away to Skövde, we have the ASSA Industrial Innovation Arena, which is founded by both the Volvo companies, the University of Skövde, the Science Park in Skövde, where they use their collaborative research and the new technology and showcase it for the world. But as you hear now, it is easy to get focused on technology and the innovation arenas. And one thing that maybe could be more focused is also to discuss a bit around how we can do business on this new and how this affects business and how we can build a sustainable industry production in West Sweden with new thinking around it that is on top of the technology. Before I start to show first version of a map with interesting companies and inspiring companies, I would like to put forward the question, what would you like to see on the map? Because as this is evolving, there will be new companies in this case that should be on the map and that have interesting stories to tell and interesting stories we can learn from. So when looking at this map, please feel free to add suggestions for these companies should also be on the map. And I'll just move forward. What we can see on the map, like if I want to make a first presentation of the West Sweden Industry 4.0 inspirational map, and we go from the bottom, I find a lot of collaboration and arenas in this case. We have so many collaborations between the industries, larger industries and small startups. We have so many collaborations with between universities and the industry. And I think that's a great strength for the region. I believe that's rather unique. And if we go from the left in Göteborg, for example, we have Industrial Innovation Arena that is a cluster together with Industrial Development Center, Science Park, Hökegård, the University of Skövde, which I think very highly of because they are out very practically in their local industry and helping out with the transition to new technology and new ideas. In Gothenburg, we have Smarta Fabriker at the Gothenburg Technical College. Lindholmen Science Park is a bus with all the new technologies. We have several initiatives at Chalmers, Fraunhofer Chalmers, that have been done robot research for a long time. For example, the SII lab and also industrial path systems that have research systems for auto-optimizing robots. We also have initiatives where companies like Volvo, SKF and others invite startups to Mobility X Lab. Volvo Group has Camp X. We have the AI innovations with a lot of places where tech meet and where we can see collaborations and between large companies and startups. And one thing here, I think, is that since this Industry 4.0 is such a wide field, I believe that the collaboration between startups and larger companies is crucial to get us forward. No startup can cover all these areas. And because if we look at the different areas from, now I'm pointing at one screen and you will have it in the other direction, but smart manufacturing to the top left, there are a lot of factories, industries working with turning out products and implementing Industry 4.0 solutions in their production. We have a lot of health tech that are well connected with IoT. We have agrotech around here where we start with new views on production. We have a lot of technology integrators, technology partners, and here I must apologize to anyone not on the list because there are so many. But this is a sample, not to say that these are the foremost or best, but a sample of forward-thinking technology integrators and partners. One thing that is interesting in the region is if we look at the AGV upper right corner, the automated guided vehicles, we have a lot of technology in Gothenburg. We have battery companies like LLion, Ale Lithium-ion, Power Cell, Micropower Group. We have AGV manufacturers at AGV, Colmorg and Toyota, but actually Janbro as well, which we have drone companies. Everdrone was mentioned last week on the news for their heart starter project together with the healthcare system. And what's interesting is that these are the same technologies that are used also with within a Volvo Vera or within a self-driving electric car or with a T-pod from Einride. So I would say we have a strong focus on self-drive and self-driving drones and the technology around that, the electrical power. There are also hidden some other logotypes in agrotech, for example. I learned about a company that are doing farm drones for farming, Global Operating Drones Sweden, with the modest acronym GOBS. It's the ring with 3 red dots. So a lot of innovation around drones and self-driving vehicles. And as our previous study at PRG for AI shows, we have a lot of AI companies in Sweden, much driven by self-driving, but also by predictive maintenance in this case. A sample of companies from that study that are relevant here. Cybersecurity is so relevant that it would take one or more screen of companies and competencies to fit them in. Robotics, ABB has develops their robot studio in this region. KUKA has their Nordic headquarters in the Gothenburg region. We have a lot in additive manufacturing. So this is a lot of technologies, a lot of exciting companies, and does this describe Industry 4.0? Question mark. And this are the actors, but what are the results? I will take one sample from the Gothenburg region. If we go back a number of years, I had the opportunity to listen to Erik Danielsson at SKF when he first spoke about the connected ball bearing and started to describe their road to actually go from selling ball bearings with cheap Chinese competitors to selling revolutions as a service. A few years ago, connected ball bearings, as you see, there's nothing, no electrical circuits on that ball bearing, so it's a very analog thing. How can you make that cyberphysical? And a few years ago, that was rather visionary. I had the possibility to follow that up with Victoria van de Kamp, their CTO, the other day, and got an update on how it's going. And what they're doing is they're adding sensor packages to their ball bearings or another roller bearings in order to be able to follow up. What you need as a customer is not a bearing, you want a functioning machine. If it is a paper machine, you don't want it to stop. And to do that, you can add sensors. The last few years, they have invested a lot in AI because sensors are only so good, but how can we predict they're breaking down before they are breaking down? A number of weeks is possible now. Together with an AI, and they can now predict a few weeks before a ball bearing breaks down. And they're starting to roll this out across the globe. They had an ambitious plan to roll out several millions, possibly tens of millions until 2025. And then came Corona. And what happens when Corona comes? Everything in the industry stops, yes, but what happens in the factories? You can't have the supervisor or these experts coming from the next city coming to inspect your ball bearings because they are not allowed. So you need actually to have automated inspection, and you need to have it now because you can't have the people in the factory doing the traditional way of maintenance. So now SKF has ramped up this project, and instead of 2024, 2025, they are aiming at 2021 because now there is a possible demand that wasn't there before. We are going to a low contact society. We don't want people traveling around to inspect our ball bearings. Instead, we want to have other ways of doing it. So the current crisis is one enabler to start this to happen. But it happens more than actually, when you do something like this, it is more than only changing the way you sell ball bearings. Now you can sell it as a revolution, as a service, but also you can predict before this beauty breaks down and needs repair. You can see a few weeks before. Then you need to actually start producing the spare one as a single order, perhaps, in the factory. So you need to change the way your factory operates to go down to lesser series, not turning out massive amounts of products, but instead the products the customers needs. And you also need to change the way your logistics works, because you need to ship this one from Gothenburg perhaps to Colombia, and you know it needs to be there in 2 weeks because this will break down in 3 to 4 weeks, or start vibrate and not behave good. So suddenly, instead of just selling ball bearings, they can sell it as a service, and they have been doing so gradually more and more all over the world for a while. but they also need to do changes to their own production and to their logistics. And I think that is describing Industry 4.0 more than many other things. One other local company I would like to lift up, one classical mechanical workshop, Bro Tornsjö I Kode, close to where I live. They have been there forever. Their main product is wheel hubs for trucks. They have a lot of CNC machinery, and now they're driving to connect all their machinery to the internet and to a central point. So suddenly they can start with predictive maintenance. They can predict when do I need a tool change. They can follow up the health of all the machines and gather a lot of data and use that to improve their processes. So go from a very analog go from an Industry 3.0 to Industry 4.0 as a project. And I wanted to lift this case because it's a mid-sized company in a classical tier 1 automotive business, and they are still in the driving seat and taking initiatives and leading in their part. And the third story I want to share is one if we go to Tibro in West Sweden. I don't know if anyone has heard about Hökegård. It's an indoor farming company that are working with farming in towers, as you see on the top right or on the right-hand side. Different kinds of salad, rucola is their main product to start with. And so what's Industry 4.0 about farming? Well, if you know your customer base, you know that in Tibro, your customers like rucola that is slightly less bitter than the average Swedish people. So if you're selling your rucola in Tibro, then you want it slightly less bitter. You need to plant different seeds. You need to have different lighting. Everything of this is indoors with artificial lighting. So you can work with your lighting and your crops, your water, and the fertilizing for your plants, and control the production to all the areas. So this is one example where they actually portray themselves as farmers, but behind that is a lot of possibilities to work with the information to not do adaptations for the Swedish market, but for the local market in Tibro, the local market in Hökegård, and through smart factory adaptations, you can go down to actually controlling the production in very great detail. That is also Industry 4.0, how you use these new technologies and new information to control your production into the detail you need to customize what you, in this case, what you grow exactly to your customers. So Industry 4.0 is a lot of technologies, a lot of technology companies, but it is also a way of thinking. How do we make business? How do we meet our customers? How do we get the products to them? So it's as much business development as it is technology in this case. Mm-hmm. So to try to summarize something, Erik, in Gothenburg we have an industrial heart. We have a lot of industry companies. If we look at the largest companies in the Gothenburg region, it's a lot of industries. We also have a lot of ICT companies. and several clusters around several of these critical areas that can give us the possibility to do smart things. I would say that Industry 4.0 is a team effort. It's not one player being able to change the world. We need the clusters, we need to cooperate, not only between universities and companies, but between companies. And I would also say that this is too big for West Sweden, so we need international influence. We need the best from the rest of the world as well. In our industry, we have both companies leading and following, but we have a large number of companies that are at the front end, producing in new ways and thinking out new products. We have a strong cluster collaboration, both in the demonstrators and in the more business developing arenas where we allow for startups like Mobility X Camp. And last but not least, we are in the beginning. This is the beginning of something big and a change we will see. So what we know is that this is not the final picture. This is just a shot as the first mapping of Industry 4.0. And with that, I would like to leave the word back to you, or if you have something.
Thank you, Johan. I'm coming back to that. But just two final slides before Q&A, my questions and some other questions. This is all for you, Johan.
This is the conferences and meeting spaces. Where do we meet? And right now we meet online. But in normal times, we have the Advanced Engineering Fair. Vi har underhållsmässan, träoteknik, skanomatic, processteknik, a lot about production. But I think these conferences and meeting spaces should be added with more business development and more thinking about regional development as well to comply with the conclusions.
Thank you so much, Johan. Very interesting, and this presentation was a little bit different compared to the other ones. Just to mention again, we have new areas of strength for Gothenburg region, one mentioned, and this is updated with the latest European focus areas as well. And I think all the mappings we've done, are each and every one are focusing on different ones of them. And also we have one area, one meeting place, one network, and one cluster initiative for each and every one of them. And that's so much easier when we have that, and everything is on the website. I would also like, and this is interesting, Industry 4.0 is going into all of those areas, and this is a little bit different compared to the previous mappings. We can take the next one, Johan. You can see we started in 2017 with IoT as the first big one, and that was very broad. It was tricky to limit what we should include and not, because it was too big. The other ones, we thought AI, for example, we will have 100 companies, and that was 2017 in the autumn. When we presented in February 2019, yes, we had more than 100. And then more and more presentation. What's the biggest difference you would say, Johan, doing this one compared to the previous ones?
The biggest difference is that Industry 4.0 is not one technology. It's a combination of a lot of technologies and business development around them, which means that everything that are in the earlier presentations and mappings are also involved in this Industry 4.0. So I think in this case we need to take one step back and maybe take a new look from a new angle, also again on Industry 4.0. So that's okay. This is very wide.
You mentioned events, and it was planned to have Advanced Engineering in March, and this study was planned to be released at Advanced Engineering in March, now it will be in September, and the plan was to have it together with Gothenburg Technical College and Smart Fabriker. I hope we can do that as well. Also, GBD Tech Week was moved from May to September, and I hope we can have a similar seminar at GBD Tech Week, and hope it can be physical and not digital, hybrid, I would say. I hope both physical and digital, because we need to, everyone can't be in the room at the same time. So we will have more things happening in the autumn.